Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Tuesday, January 27th. That's right, it's a Tuesday, because I was busy on a Monday, and what do you know, it all worked out. The LA Galaxy signing Joao Klauss to a contract, one-year contract. It is a trade. We'll talk about the details of that. And once again, I will explain why Klauss will be a DP this year and what the Galaxy have planned long-term should that work out, all right? We got lots to talk about on that front. We'll talk a little bit about Nascimento's loan details as well. We have a little bit of the poly market in there that MLS is signing with and whatever that means, and some other stuff that's sort of going around, including the results of the LA Galaxy's very first preseason game. So a lot to get to. In order to help me do all that, the Olympic Panda is almost gone, but he's here one more time with us. It is Mr. Kevin, the Panda Baxter. Kev, how you doing, bud?
I don't know, man. I'm out of sorts. It's Tuesday. I can't do this.
It made me, if it makes you feel any better, I would have bet actual money today that it was Wednesday and not Tuesday. So I don't know what day it is. The last few weeks I haven't been able to figure out which day it is, but hopefully the LA Galaxy have that sort. They know what day it is, right? Kevin, you were down at training today, were you not?
I was, and this is kind of like the old MLS schedule. Remember, games on Thursday and Friday and Wednesday and all over the place. So the pod now is unpredictable.
Yeah, you can't. You don't even know. No, we'll be back on Monday. But is this your last? This is your last one before you're off to the.
This is my
the
last
Olympics?
one, unless I can't sleep and I'm up at 5 a.m. Milan time.
Right.
Then I can call in.
That sounds. But you'd be a day ahead too. It feels like you'd be in the future.
I would be speaking to you from the future. Yes, yeah. I could predict things.
Yeah, it is. It is a little crazy. I know you have some insights and some details for us from training, but what we'll do first before we get to any of that is talk to you and remind you once again that you too can come down and hang out with Corner of the Galaxy on February 8th. Guess what? The LA Galaxy are playing the Chicago Fire. That game starts at 10 a.m. at about 11:45, 11:50. Right after that game ends, COG for the third consecutive year will start our live show, which will be about an hour. We have guests lined up. I would expect Greg Vanny. I would expect guys like Will Kuntz as long as he's in town. Tom Braun will be there. And then, of course, we'll get a couple players in there as well before they have to head off after the game. Maybe we'll get some new players, maybe with some guys who have just got, maybe Joao Klauss will come on over and join us at the tent as a designated player there. But we would love for you to come down as well. So February 8th, you can, of course, go to CoachellaValleyInvitational.com to get your passes. But I did, Kevin, as I promised I would do, I have a winner for our VIP tickets. Now, I notified said winner earlier today, but let me talk about this process just for a second because I screwed up big time on this. I don't know that I will ever, because Hammer and I were talking about it on Thursday night show. He said, I think it's really great that you're not doing a random drawing, that you're like, hey, impress us, give us a story of why you deserve the tickets. If it was up to me, you guys all get the tickets. I was sitting over here like crying. I got everybody's got a great story. I'm like gonna go to the Galaxy and be like, okay, I only need like 20 more pair of VIP tickets. Can we make that happen? So unfortunately, I only have the one pair to do it. But never again. Every other time, Kevin, this is going to be random. We're never doing a why do you deserve the tickets? Because guess what? Y'all deserve the tickets. I'll tell you right now. Almost anybody who sent me an email deserves the tickets, Kevin. I had to employ my wife as an official like arbiter of the stories to make some cuts, and she's way more ruthless than I am. I'm like, how could you do that? How could you do such a thing? Put that person back in the. She goes, if you wanted my help, you got to take my help. So the whole deal. So we did come up with it, and I agree 100% with the choice that was made at the end. I actually picked out of the last like 3 or 4 that we had of who the winner is. So Tony and his son have won the VIP tickets. I won't tell you their story because no matter what it is, it's not going to probably be as good as your story, and you're going to be sad and mad and everything else. But Tony, I hope you have a wonderful time and enjoy the VIP tickets. Come say hi to us whenever you get a chance. And for everybody who put in, I got about, I don't know, Kevin, 50 plus entries or something like that.
What was Tony's reaction when you called?
I wish I would have called. That would have been more fun. I just emailed. He was really excited. Yeah, from what I can tell, there was exclamation points, so I'm sure he was excited.
Tony, I mean, his story was good, but with the ones that you showed me, the guy I would have picked, there was that one, remember, where he said, I used to play for the Galaxy, and then I tore my ACL, and then I tore it again, and I can't get tickets to Coachella Valley, and the team's not returning my. Could you please give me?
Yeah, we found Ricky Puig's burner. Is that the one? Yeah,
I would have given it to that guy.
That is 100% something that could have happened. You don't know. But all that coming up on February 8th, LA Galaxy headed in that direction. Now, in chronological order, so to speak, or at least in my mind, the chronological order is the LA Galaxy did play a preseason game, Kevin. It was against the Portland Timbers, and it was another one of those closed door and nothing's going to be released. And then Portland started posting videos and stuff like that. So we did find out, one, that the LA Galaxy missed a penalty kick. Joseph Paintsel missed a penalty kick because they had video of that.
Starting early.
The LA Galaxy in like the last 5 years have like a 50% penalty kick conversion.
Maybe 50. I don't know. It's really bad.
At this point, Kevin, I am convinced that you might be a better penalty kick taker than some of the players. I don't know what it is about the LA Galaxy penalty kicks, but from a spot where you should normally convert like 70%, I feel like the Galaxy are way under the 70% mark. I don't know what it is, but it feels like there's a lot of misses. And I was like, who was the last guy that you felt really confident taking a penalty kick for the LA Galaxy? I actually asked that question, I think, in the Discord. And so there were some, I think the correct answer perhaps was, I know, Kevin, for you, it's going to be Billy Sharp because your answer to every question is Billy Sharp. Okay, good.
It is.
Sasha Kleshin was one of them, and I thought Sasha was somebody who I was like, yeah, you feel pretty confident with Sasha stepping up that he was going to be able to bury one. Somebody said Kobe Jones. I don't think it's been that long, but very.
I was going to go back to Robbie Keane and Landon Donovan myself.
Yeah, I mean, that seems an awful long time. Like nobody else could make penalties in between that. But
no one could.
Nobody could. But no, you see that. So, but anyway, so we saw.
So you're saying Joseph Paintsel's in mid-season form already?
He's the Galaxy picking up right where they left off. It's a tongue-in-cheek sort of look, but it is something that you hope perhaps a new signing might be a little. Oh, by the way, the new signing I think in MLS play is right around 50% in penalty kicks. So, just wanted to point that out just for fun. But anyway, so the Galaxy did end up winning this game. It was Isaiah Parente who ended up scoring the game-winning goal in the second half. And if I read it correctly, it said that the lone goal came in the second half when a low cross from the right side found a late-arriving Isaiah Parente inside the box. The midfielder calmly finished to give the Galaxy the advantage, and the Galaxy controlled possession throughout the game in their first preseason match of the 2026 season. Now, should you trust any of that? No, it came from the LA Galaxy. They're going to say nice things. We don't have any video of that. I don't know that. I think Damian was sort of joking around, Kevin, that he could like stand up there and watch. Oh, look, you built me a nice place for me to watch all these games. There were, I think, a lot of people watching, but the media was not allowed to be one of those people.
So we could have dressed up like in disguise, and we could have watched.
I would love to see you dress up in disguise. That would be.
Well, the best part of that is that, I mean, assuming the Galaxy not lying about the score,
Right.
Big goose egg there for Portland. I mean, the Galaxy gave up 66 goals last season. Now they start the year with a shutout.
Clean sheet in the scrimmage. That was my takeaway as well. It's like, by the way, don't know who played in defense. Could have been nobody, right? I have no idea. Don't know the lineups. Don't know like how many, like if they had 3 lineups, 30, 30, and 30. If they had 2 lineups, 45 and 45, it's unlikely anybody went over like 45 minutes, usually this early in the preseason. It's more likely they played like 3 different like 30-minute sort of games. But that's sort of where the LA Galaxy landed on that. So if you're looking, undefeated in the preseason for the LA Galaxy, scored twice as many goals as their opponents so far, 1-0. So doing well on that. So I again, not much you can take forward from it. I can of course show you some of these awesome pictures that the LA Galaxy put out. But in order to do that, because this is a game, and whenever you're game, you're playing with the boys, it's a little playing with the boys. One more time, just because we're doing it. There we go. There we go. So the LA Galaxy getting in some of that preseason scrimmage, doing a little stretching, getting the legs nice and warmed up for everything that was going on. The Galaxy will have another scrimmage coming up on January 31st. So just 4 days from now, where they will take on DC United at 11 a.m. That's a closed-door scrimmage at Dignity Health Sports Park as well. They'll close out the Dignity Health Sports Park games on February 4th whenever they take on OCSC. Rivalry match there, Kevin. Rivalry match. It's the you tried to steal my stadium rivalry match,
You said closed door, but they're playing on the practice field, right?
They are.
So there's no doors there. There's
gates.
It's not closed door.
It should be closed gate.
Closed gate.
Yeah, there's a swing gate. That's a good point. Good point of order.
You got a drone or binoculars, from one of those trees. You can watch it.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll sort of see how that goes. So anyway, that's your preseason schedule as it lines up right now. Remember that the LA Galaxy looking at a 2:19 start time in CONCACAF Champions Cup against Sporting San Miguelito. So that's coming up. Then the LA Galaxy have the New York City guys. So that's sort of where we're staying. And Kevin's going to have some more information on perhaps how the LA Galaxy are going to start the season. But I want to get to the signing first because I think that's an important part. Then we can sort of
sign somebody.
It seems that way. It was made official this morning. Gee, big surprise. We're on a Tuesday and it happened on a Tuesday morning. This was sort of the precursor to it, though, of course. Joao Klauss at the St. Louis airport today. This was on Monday. And so there were sightings of the man.
Travels light. Look at that.
That's a little dog in there, Kevin. I know you can't see it, but there's a little like Pomeranian.
Yeah, a little white
in there.
dog. Yeah,
he's got a little white dog in there. So Joao Klauss headed to the airport, and then this morning, of course, the LA Galaxy announcing that Joao Klauss is their new designated player. The designated player coming through as a season-ending replacement for Ricky Puig. I'm going to get my press release here so I can read you the exact wording the LA Galaxy used, and then, of course, we can talk about it. The LA Galaxy announced today that the club has acquired forward Joao Klauss in cash for player trade from St. Louis City SC in exchange for $2.375 million. Klauss is under contract with the club through the 2026 season. Ricky Puig has been officially, I added the officially part, but has been placed on the season-ending injury list, the SEI creating an available designated player slot for Klauss, who will be an SIE replacement player this year. Klauss is 28, arrives in Los Angeles after 3 seasons with St. Louis, where he recorded 27 goals and 85 appearances for the 2023 expansion side. The Brazilian forward brings extensive international experience, having competed in the German Bundesliga with Hoffenheim, the Austrian Bundesliga with Lask, and the Belgian Pro League with Standard Liège. Throughout his time in Europe and MLS, he has appeared in both the UEFA Europa League, and the CONCACAF Champions Cup, adding valuable global competition experience to his resume. So that is Joao Klauss, both the way, but with Brazilian and Italian citizenship. With a German name by way of Brazil. He joins the other 2 Brazilians, Nascimento, who also just signed a loan agreement, as well as Gabriel Peck. So the Brazilian connection, along with Juninho, who is still on the team and does a lot of the translating there. The Brazilian connection strong in this one so far. As a matter of fact, one of the very first pictures is with Klauss, Nascimento, and Peck. So Klauss out there training today, it looks like, introduced himself to the team, did all that fun stuff. And so the LA Galaxy have their designated player. So that's what you get from the Joao Klauss. Now, Kevin, there is some questions, and I think you had some questions about about how this all works salary cap wise.
Yeah, and you can explain it, and then I will not understand it. But go ahead.
I will do my best to give you the Cliff Notes version of what seems to be at play here for the LA Galaxy. First of all, you have to understand this, and you need to understand this, and everybody needs to understand this, because I got this question about 700 bazillion times today, which is, can Klauss be bought down to a TAM player? The answer is no, he cannot. Here is the reason that he is a designated player, because you need to understand this, is that $2.375 million has to be added to his compensation, all right, in order to calculate basically budget charge and everything else that happens. Now, that's averaged over the life of the contract, Kevin, which is exactly 1 year, right? Because we know that his contract is up at the end of 2026.
So 2.375 divided by
no plus
1
divided by is still that.
But
also his salary. So you have to add that together. So the 2.3 plus about the 1.3, 1.4 gets you about the 3.6, 3.5, 3.4, somewhere in there.
Still less than Ricky.
It is. So not that matters in this particular case. It does not actually, but that means that his budget charge with the acquisition fee plus his salary is more than the max ceiling on TAM, which means they can't use TAM to sort of buy him down against the cap. So
this year they can't do that.
Yeah, they can't. They technically will not be. We'll say that you're correct. This year they can't do that. Okay, so there is no way, there is no mechanism for this to happen. So you can stop dreaming of fancy things happening in the summer. The Galaxy do not have a designated player position open unless they move one of their 3 designated players. Actually, currently 4 designated players, because Ricky Puig is still technically a designated player. He's just not listed on the roster because he's on the season-ending injury list.
Where I was going with that was presumably if Ricky doesn't tear his ACL for a third time, he would be able to come back at the start of 2027 if they want to keep Klauss. Then they can put him on TAM because that 2.375 goes away.
Yes,
it doesn't have to be a DP.
Yes, but that's what I was thinking. That's where you were thinking now. Right. At the beginning of this, you did not think that. You thought that there was going to be something. So the idea here is for the LA Galaxy is that Joao Klauss is not a short-term signing. Yes, it's a 1 year. And yes, if things go bad and they don't like how he performs or things don't work, the Galaxy could get out of the deal with Joao Klauss at the end of the season. Likely what's going to happen, and this is the play, Kevin, is that the LA Galaxy are going to extend a contract or basically write a new contract at the end of the year or whenever they get around to doing it, that would lock Klauss into a targeted allocation money player. Now, he's making about $1.3, $1.4 million, which is well
essentially
under...
Essentially what
Diego Fagundes.
Brain fog. That guy.
Yeah, but I think you've used
essentially what he was making.
But I think you've used Diego Fagundes now like 7 times in explaining 3 differment players. So I don't think you can use it every time.
I miss him.
Okay.
I miss him.
I understand. So yes, the idea is that the $1.4 million. Here's the crazy part of Major League Soccer, because the LA Galaxy are taking the cap hit for his transfer fee in 1 year. It will go away at the end of next year, right? If you had, let's say you had Klauss had a 4-year deal and you were trying to spread out the $2 million, it would be $500,000 each year that would have to be allocated basically across the salary. And that would put basically some pressure on how much you could pay him for TAM. Here's the crazy thing. This is what could happen. I'm not saying this will happen. Joao Klauss making $1.4 million. Next year, if the LA Galaxy wanted to keep him and sign him to a deal, they could sign him to a deal that was basically $1.8 million per year. And he could still be a TAM player. So he could get a raise, right? The LA Galaxy could keep him as a TAM player, and he would get his money. The LA Galaxy would get their player, and it's less of a cap hit than it is in 2026 because they're eating the entire transfer fee in 2026 and not anywhere else. That is the play here.
Well, I asked Will Kuntz about this today. I said, was Klauss a guy that you guys immediately targeted when you learned to be without Ricky? Was this kind of the Ricky replacement? And he said, no, they were working on it before. But what happened with all the stuff you just talked about got way easier when Ricky went down. It just gave them a ton of flexibility.
I think that's breaking news, by the way. People didn't pay attention to that. Listen to it again. The Galaxy were already working on Joao Klauss before Ricky went down. So they were going to add him sort of as that, but it was going to be much more difficult math to do because you couldn't necessarily eat the transfer of Klauss over to the LA Galaxy in 1 year, because you have to give St. Louis something, plus you still have to play Klauss. It was more difficult math.
Well, yeah, and I didn't get into what their options were, but I mean, just thinking along with you now, maybe they would have the money to St. Louis would have been spread out over 2 or 3 seasons, and maybe they had to sign Klauss to an extension to make that work to get him under that 1.8. But once Ricky was gone, then they could use that. They could,
use the DP slot,
and pay the $2.375 million and not really have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, and people have sort of asked me to like grade this in terms of, well, is that a good move for the LA Galaxy? I think it is a calculated move, right? And I was going to say it's a less daring move. It's more safe, right? I'm not saying it's completely safe, but as of right now, the LA Galaxy are not committed to Joao Klauss for anything longer than this year. Not unless they want to. I think they want to. So as long as he gets off to the start, I think he's going to. They'll probably start negotiations for this in the summertime, where they can go through and try to extend him and basically make him a TAM player, and that will lock him in for another 2 or 3 years to play as an LA Galaxy player. So they could have him until he's 30, 31 on a TAM structure, on a TAM salary, which is what St. Louis was going to do this year as well. Klauss did not come over as a designated player. The LA Galaxy made him a designated player by the $2.375 million plus his salary equals designated player in this case. St. Louis was going to have him as targeted allocation money this year if they hadn't moved him. And so instead, St. Louis wins because they get $2.375 million. And his contract was expiring. Don't know if he would have signed, and maybe this was the best deal for them. So St. Louis wins. I think the Galaxy win because he fills a need that they want, and they were able to spend money outside of the cap. Really, it's all outside the cap because it's a designated player, outside of a designated player hit that you were already taking for Ricky Push. So nothing really changed. The Galaxy were able to spend money in a smart way that gets them a TAM player at the end of this, if that's what they want. If not, they can break free and go the other way. And there's no 4 designated player problem that they have in 2027 whenever it comes around during December that they have to figure out what to do with.
Well, and he's a big mobile striker. This is what Greg Vanney wanted. He told us before this offseason even started, the end of last season. He wanted a big mobile striker. I think now Christian Ramirez and Nascimento, who were going to compete, I think, for that starting spot. I think we'll talk about the potential of 2 starting lineups in a minute, but Klauss is going to be the starter. Those 2 guys are going to fight for playing time behind Klauss. I talked to John Nelson, who played with Klauss in St. Louis, about him, and he said he's a great guy, great locker room guy, which makes sense. That's the kind of people the Galaxy and Greg Vanney and Will Kuntz have been signing, really good locker room guys, character guys. He said that he's a monster, he's a beast, he's a monster in the air. Will get onto the ends of crosses, and you got Peck and Paint still delivering those crosses, so that's a good thing. Nelson said he's really good at getting on the ends of crosses, but he also plays really well with his feet. So, gives you a couple options. You want to cross the ball in, he can go up and get it. You want to, send the ball in on the ground, he can get on that too. I forgot to ask him about penalty kicks. That would have been a good question. Mm-hmm. But John Nelson was very happy to see him come over, a guy who's played with him. That's always a good sign because those are the guys that know him best.
If you saw on social media today, you could go through and there were a lot of St. Louis fans who were in the LA Galaxy mentions saying how much they were going to miss him too. I think that's also a fairly good sign. It's a mixed bag. I will say that I think Klauss is a hard worker on the defensive end. So he likes to come back from that top spot and sort of play some defense, which I think the Galaxy always appreciate. Always good to have that. I think he's more of a distributor than people realize. If you watched him play, he'll drop down low, he'll win balls. He's a true hold-up 9 to hold it up and then be able to dish and distribute out from that. I think if he has guys running for him, like just say Joseph Paintsel and Gabriel Peck, and they're able to sort of make those runs and do the things that you want to do, I think that really helps him be a contributor, and I think he's going to have the assists pop up a little bit higher. I'm still concerned for the Galaxy in terms of the middle of the field and what a 10 looks like or what an 8 looks like or however they're going to mix and match. But there was indication, certainly we got it during media day, that the LA Galaxy were looking for 2, possibly 3 players. Klauss was 1. So there's at least 1 more. Kevin, have you heard more on that?
Yes, I was told today the Galaxy are not done yet. They are still working on 2 other players. They're both attacking players. If they get the 2 they're going after. I kind of didn't press for more than that, but we know they've got a 9. We know that they've got 2 wingers already, so you can pretty much guess it's going to be an attacking midfielder.
It seems that way, and that's what I had sort of indicated as well. Here's the thing is, the Galaxy have no U22 spots open. They have no designated player spots open, and I don't know how much TAM they have left. I will say this. We did talk about how much general allocation money the LA Galaxy had, and there was the Galaxy were 4th from the bottom in terms of amount of general allocation money. I was sort of clued in as a little heads up that that money did not include the Johnny Perez money from Nashville that should be coming in as well later this year. So that's also money that will eventually hit for general allocation money. So the Galaxy in better shape than what it looks like there, especially as they filled it up. As I mentioned, Kevin, there was no general allocation money used for St. Louis. There was no targeted allocation money used for St. Louis. That was just cash. So you and I talked about, would the Galaxy spend and how much would they spend and how much would Uncle Phil want to contribute to the kitty to find sort of the replacement for Ricky Puig, and the answer to that right now is about $2.375 million plus the salary they're going to be paying Joao Klauss. So interesting move. Again, it solves a lot of their problems. I think some people were saying, get one guy, get a really good guy for 1 year. That's really hard to do. In this case, the LA Galaxy kind of got a guy who is more than capable of playing the 9. It's borderline whether he's designated player quality or not for the LA Galaxy. I will say that's a question. That being said, if the guy goes out and throws out 13 goals and 6 assists or something like that, it's going to be pretty hard to argue that he shouldn't have been added to the roster whenever it comes about. So pretty interesting stuff. And
remember, Uncle Phil still has to pay Ricky. Just because Ricky's not playing doesn't mean he gets 100% of his salary. By the way, I was looking up, Will Kuntz came in. He started with the Galaxy. I'm 99% sure he was there doing something, but he wasn't announced until April 7th, 2023. And he was announced as Senior VP of Player Personnel. That December became General Manager. But looking at the players on the Galaxy roster, there are only 2 right now that were there before Will. And again, Will comes in April 7th. Audi joined the team March 21st, so about 2 weeks before. Mikovic joined the team on March 31st, so exactly a week before Will. Everybody else on the Galaxy roster right now came after Will. It came during the Will Kuntz era, and the Will Kuntz era hasn't even hit 3 years yet. So that's I don't know whether to say it's a remarkable turnaround, a remarkable rebuild, but this team is, it clearly at this point, if it wasn't before, but clearly now this is Will Kuntz's team and Greg Vanney's team.
Yeah, it is, and so they own all of that. They own the success and the failures for everything that sort of comes. Somebody asking questions about Nascimento. We did get official confirmation that Mateus Nascimento loan had been extended basically through June 2026. That's only the summer, boys and girls, just in case you're playing the home game. So an interesting sort of what we'd call a 6-month loan for Nascimento. I will say this cannot be confirmed, and I would not take it as written fact, but basically somewhere in the loan at some point, it was rumored that if Nascimento played more than 50% of the total games, that basically the Galaxy would have to trigger a buy. I will say that with Joao Klauss in there, it's probably unlikely that he gets the 50%. We can talk about that, but maybe. Yeah, we can talk about
that. They only play 15 games before that trigger would come, 15 MLS games. Nascimento at the end of last season, when the Galaxy, remember, they were winless for 16 games, and then they were, I think, 7-6-5 after that. Would have been good for 49 points if they played that way the whole season. So they were pretty good. That's when Nascimento was starting a lot and actually contributing a lot of goals and stuff. So he seemed to figure something out at the end of the season. As far as whether he'll play or not, I talked to Greg Vanney and some of the players today, and you showed that schedule. They play 4 games, I think, in the first, out of what it is. There's that
9 days? Yeah, 9 days, 8 days, something like that.
And then if they keep going, if they win, if they beat San Miguelito in advance, the start of March looks just like the end of February. So there's a lot of games at the start. And Greg Vanney confirmed that they are, really looking at the possibility of going with 2 lineups. So they would have a CONCACAF Champions Cup lineup and an MLS lineup. And it would pretty much, there's a possibility some guys would play in both. maybe Mikovic, for example, but it's pretty much going to be 11 different players that would play, in one tournament, and 11 different players that play in the other. And they may continue doing that through the middle of March. Everybody that I saw today in camp, and Greg said he agreed that they all looked super fit. Everybody came in fit. Everybody knew that the start of the season was going to be important. John Nelson talked about the poor start last season, and he said, we've forgotten about that, other than the fact that it's a really great lesson. We don't want to ever go through anything like that again. So I think that's maybe one motivating factor why a lot of players came in fit and ready to go, that they don't want again to get off to that slow start. But the schedule is so tough. They're talking now about two different teams. So maybe Klauss is the MLS striker and Nascimento is the CONCACAF Champions Cup striker. If you're looking at 50% of the games, I think he's probably going to get that. Not maybe if it's just playing, just appearing. I bet you he appears in 50%. Maybe he doesn't start 50%.
It might be more along the minutes. I'd also say that none of that is confirmed, and I doubt the authenticity of that particular report just on its face. But having said that, the buy for the LA Galaxy last time was $6 million. I don't know that they're going to be sitting there in June and say, okay, yeah, we're ready to go ahead and purchase Nascimento. What could happen if he has a good start is that perhaps that does put something in there in the LA Galaxy. They're like, all right, it's time to pull the trigger. We've seen him develop enough. Now it's time. We needed 6 more months to sort of figure it. The other possibility is that, one, Botafogo wants to get a look at him or have him available basically through the World Cup break and be able to sell him during the summer transfer window, which is why it's only 6 months. The LA Galaxy might have a U22 target that they might want to go after in the summer transfer window, which would also allow them to do that if they parted ways from Nascimento. So there's different ways that this can sort of play out. It does allow the LA Galaxy some flexibility, and if they find a need that they really want to try to fill with a younger player whenever it comes to the summertime, the major transfer window across the world, then there's a chance that they could do that in that spot and in that particular order. The U22 spot's currently occupied by Aude, who I think could possibly be a transfer target just in terms of how many players the LA Galaxy have for every position on the defense. Defense is stacked across the entire back line. But also you have Aude, you have Nascimento, and you have Mikovic are your U22s, right? And so those are sort of your deciding factors this year for what you want to do. But the Galaxy currently have no designated player spots. The Galaxy currently have no U22 slots available either, but that could change by selling somebody from either of those tranches, or by or watching the loan terminate basically from Nascimento and he goes back. I don't believe that. I think that there's a really good chance that because the loan was 6 months, that Nascimento moves on and doesn't stay with the LA Galaxy. It would also give the LA Galaxy a chance to, one, either go out and get on the striker or possibly get something else in the midfield if they thought that they had the ability to go out and do something in the midfield. And perhaps after 6 months, they'll have a good idea of how Ricky Puig is recovering. But I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath at this point. The Ricky Puig coming back in 27 is going to be a real sort of question mark about everything. So be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think they're gonna wrap him in bubble wrap next year. Once it's concluded that he's ready to go, just wrap him up and make sure nothing happens to him. When you look at that schedule, and the Nasci 6 month thing is so interesting because that's going to hit right when the World Cup break that comes, and the World Cup break is like 7 or 8 weeks.
Yep.
I talked to Greg today about that. You start the year out with 4 games in 9 days, and if you win, then March is the same, and then you get to 15 games into the season, not even halfway there. 15 games, and then you stop for 8 weeks. I mean, that's a long time. Greg said, look, we're going to have a second preseason camp. He goes, I haven't decided. The guys are going to go home. I haven't decided how long we're going to let them go home, but they're going to go away, and then we're going to come back. We're going to start preseason camp again. We're going to have to start all over again.
It's going to be just like next year. It's going to be just like you're going to play the mini season, and then you're going to go away, and then you're going to come back, and then it's going to be preseason, and then you're going to start the season again.
But it's and then they finish. I think it's the last 18 MLS game. Oh no, 19 MLS games in 113 days. So it's like a game every 5 days, and so then it's a sprint to the finish once again in the hot summer months. It's going to be a really difficult trying schedule, and I asked Greg about that, and his thing was like it seems like every year there's something different to the MLS schedule. They add Leagues Cup. They say you can't play U.S. Open Cup and Leagues Cup. They have a pause in the middle. There's always something that forces the coaches to come up with some sort of remedy or solution to something that shouldn't even be a problem.
Yeah, no, it is quite extensive. By the way, I did misspeak, and the chat room caught me. Mitrovic isn't the U22; it's Sanabria who's the U22, and I knew that. I don't know why I said that, but anyway, Sanabria. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure right now without a 10. Sanabria is one of the guys who can sort of play the 8 role. Will Kuntz thought he was an 8 whenever he came in. He was a guy who was sidelined certainly by one, coming into a team and a different country and being younger and sort of getting adjusted to that, two, breaking his collarbone, right? That certainly hurt. I do think we started to see something at the end of last year that sort of indicated that perhaps he was ready to step up. But that's going to be somebody to watch who's going to have a good start. I think in order for him to be a real productive piece for the LA Galaxy at the U22 spot. But I think that Winder is poised to take a big step forward. I think that Sanabria is poised to take a big step forward. If I was going to guess, it's going to be one of those two guys who really steps in, I think, early here to do it. But I also think, and as you and I have sort of discussed, Kevin, is with the Galaxy going after 2 more players and 2 more maybe on the attacking side of things, I think one of those is definitely somewhat of an attacking midfielder or possibly a playmaker that could slot in there and do something. I don't think it's going to be some big, huge name, but I think it's going to be somebody who's more than capable of doing, and it's actually a target that I've sort of been hinted that was being looked for since the season ended, which is sort of maybe an MLS stable, 8 or 10 that can go in there and help the LA Galaxy fill out the roster. So I still believe that some of that is going to happen.
Well, depth is going to be so key. Again, we've talked about the schedule, and the Galaxy are pretty close. You talk about them using 2 different starting 11s. That means you got to be 2 deep at every position. The Galaxy are pretty close to being there. There's a couple places where I think maybe they're 1.5 players deep, but they're pretty close. There's a lot of depth, and the other 2 additions would add to that. Greg seemed pretty happy, as he told you as well, pretty happy with the offseason acquisitions. They did pretty much what they wanted to do. They got the guys they wanted to get, or at least the profile of the guys they wanted to get. I had an interesting conversation with Maya Yoshida today. He said the Japan thing is not necessarily done. He's not interested in going there, but he said never to anything. We did talk about some of the obstacles, and he said he didn't want to take his daughter out of school, that he kind of promised to her that they wouldn't take her out of school. She loves it here. He said she's more American than Japanese, which is a problem, Yoshida said. Apparently he wants her to be more Japanese.
Right.
But he said, if the offer was great, he would go, but he's not looking to go. He looked super fit. And
right.
I said that to him. I go, you look really fit. And he goes, because I am. Which is kind of, Maya does not, as you know, Maya does not beat around the bush. He's very direct and very honest. And that was his honest answer. I did kind of assume I'd get something a little more diplomatic, but when everyone had left the field, he stayed there and he was running 100-yard wind sprints after everybody else had left. And he came off and I said, what are you doing? He goes, I need that more than just kicking the ball into the net. I need to, this fitness. And I said something to the effect of, with the acquisitions, it looks like, you didn't get the playing time you wanted last year. You may not get it this year, but they really value you as a locker room leader. And I meant that as a compliment. And he's like, well, I'm going to play. He said, that's why I'm out here running. He said, yes, they brought in other center backs, but you know what that means? That doesn't mean I've lost my starting spot. That just means there's more competition. I think Maya Yoshida is going to have a really good season. I don't know how much he plays, but I think when he does play, and yes, I said San Diego was going to be terrible, and I was wrong.
Yes.
But this time, Maya convinced me that he is out for bear, that he is, really determined this year. And he said, it was a very interesting conversation. He said things to the effect of, when a player gets older and they're not playing well, everyone always says it's the age. Mm-hmm. And he said it's not always the age. And he sort of hinted that maybe it was something else. But he is not going to the bench willingly. If he winds up on the bench, it's because someone beat him. But he thinks he's starting 33, 34 games and playing 90 minutes every week. And if he doesn't,
right,
the guys in front of him are going to be having to play well to get there. He seems super motivated.
You tell Maya he's not playing 34 games. I don't want to tell him. The whole deal.
Yeah,
he's.
I wasn't trying to be a jerk.
No.
That would be my normal, manera de ser, my normal way of being. But what I was trying to sort of just say, look, you're still really valuable. You might not play 90 minutes. He was having none of it. He was like, why am I not playing 90 minutes every week?
I love it.
So, and yeah, that's exactly the attitude you want. Too many guys come out there and say, yeah, I'm playing out the string, I'm kind of hanging in here.
Right.
No, Maya is going to win MLS MVP. That's his goal this season.
So far the redemption tour includes Christian Ramirez as redemption tour, Maya Yoshida as redemption tour. Who else is on a redemption tour? This particular
Garces, can we say Garces?
Garza, maybe Garces is on a Mitrovic is on a redemption tour. You watch, this is his year that he's gonna really want to shut us up.
I don't know about guys being motivated for redemption, but guys who I think need to have a better season, they need to go back to the form of 2024. I would put Gabriel Peck at the top of that list.
Peck, Paintsel, I think both of those guys certainly you could point.
Paintsel kind of came out at the end of last season. I'm not going to say last season was a absolute poor season, but
1/3 of a season does not a season make. And so, ask Marco Royce, who was clearly the LA Galaxy's best player last year, but did he play enough games? No, he did not. Right. And so, and some of that was the Galaxy were out of it and you didn't need to play him and you probably don't need to put any more miles on the knees. I get it. But that's something to sort of watch this time is that the Galaxy need to get production out of everybody early. If they are able to do that, they will start the season just fine. Let me get to some super chats here because I've had them and I've been talking about them things. Avila says, can we free up a U22 slot by cutting Nasci in June? Yeah, you can. And that might be a plan. Depends on what you need. And the Galaxy will have some flexibility in that. As a matter of fact, it's built-in flexibility that I think the Galaxy are really happy about. I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps the Galaxy are the ones who are saying, we just want a 6-month loan. And then you can have them back. And then Charlie says, with the World Cup here in 2026, MLS should segue to a 4th DP to capitalize on those ending in Europe. 2, is Peck capable of serving balls to Klauss? Yeah, Peck is capable of doing it. I think that, he's not the best crosser on the team. I don't think Joseph Paintsel is the best crosser on the team. But I think that we have found that there are players who are more than doing it. Listen, there's some metric that shows Sanabria as one of the better progressive passers, right? Whenever they brought him up. It was one of the reasons that I think that they brought him up into Major League Soccer and called him an 8 whenever they did, because most people saw him as a 6. And I think people still sort of have him pegged as a 6. I still think he's an 8, watching some of the highlights I've seen from him in previous, and then looking at the underlying numbers, it sort of tells you that he's an 8. And so let's see if he can be an 8. You want to talk about a guy who could provide, sort of that central passing. I think that's going to be, I think Marco Royce is going to be more than capable of providing balls to Joao Klauss and Joseph Paintsel and Gabriel Peck. If you want to bring in the best crosser on all the LA Galaxy, you bring in Mauricio Cuevas, right? On the right-hand side. So you can certainly put him in order to get crosses on that. So Greg Vanney's going to have a lot of mixing and matching. I have no idea what the starting lineup looks like right now. There are so many options, which is great, by the way. You should struggle to figure out what a starting lineup is sometimes. Now, either that can mean, Kevin, that you have really bad players because you can't figure a starting lineup, or it's the other part of that, which is that you might have a really good players. I think the defense, my first choice defense, if I'm thinking off the top of my head, is a 3-man back line, because I want to make sure that, Hack is there. I want to make sure that Guesman is there. And I want to make sure that Garces is there. And then I just left Maya Yoshida on the bench just because, I'm feeling crazy. But this feels like the LA Galaxy have depth, and where are you going to play Mauricio Cuevas? Where are you going to play Harbor Miller? Julian Aude, where does he play? Does John Nelson start over? We could go through all those, and those are all really good questions. Again, something to watch in the preseason might be the LA Galaxy not giving up a whole bunch of goals to the preseason. Well,
and you mentioned Mitrovic. I think a lot of pressure on him. You talk about having to rebound from last season, the redemption tour. Gave up 66 goals last season. He didn't give all of them up. John McCarthy played for a while, but they gave up 66 goals. The Galaxy spent a lot of time, money, and energy on getting defenders, central defenders, in the middle of that. And I don't think they're going to let that strategy be ruined by a guy in goal who can't stop shots. So I think he's on a very short leash. I think he needs to get off to a good start. And it was amazing. Everybody I talked to today out there all said the same thing. It's like last year we learned that 16-game streak at the start taught us to be humble. We figured it out at the end. We figured out how to play without Ricky. And we got to start this season like we ended last one. We're not going to go winless for 16 games.
Yeah, you can sort of feel it's one of those things that you might be able to put a pin in and say, oh, this is the reason that this happened, right? We can sort of look at perhaps the MLS Cup in 2024 and the loss to Houston, and you could certainly hold up the loss to Houston as sort of that wake up call that the Galaxy got just before they went to the playoffs, and then that sustained them through it. You shouldn't have to be winless in 16 for a wake up call, but the Galaxy did it, and there's no way they want to repeat that. And so I think that there is a redemption quality or a cautious sort of quality, which is we cannot play that way, and we need to really come out firing.
Well, yeah, they were the guys I talked to, especially John Nelson, were emphasizing the positive aspects of, okay, what's positive about going 0-6 or 0-12-4? It's that they found that little edge where, you need to be focused all the time. That in a league like MLS, games can get away from you if you lose your focus for just a second. You need to be humble. They came in having won the title in 2024, unbeaten at home, great season, a lot of records. They came in thinking that they roll out the ball, they're going to win. And, John Nelson's he didn't say that, but John Nelson's take kind of was, this proved to us that you have to be on the top of your game. You have to be fit. You have to be focused. You have to be ready to win. And he said it made us humble. And it also was a lesson that we have in the back of our minds. When things start going bad, it's going to be, hey, this thing can snowball. Let's get a handle on it quickly. I think John Nelson wants to look at the positive sides of that. It's hard to look at the 16-game winless streak as positive, but it happened, and what are you going to do with it? John Nelson's trying to funnel into a good experience that makes him a better player.
You can't not learn from it, right? That would be the mistake, right? And so I think certainly there has to be an adjustment and all that. LA Galaxy Outsider $5 super chat says, sell out a sign Sato, have Will give me a call. I got some ideas. I know that's how it goes for the Outsider. I'll pass it along to Will. I'm stand by the phone. So we certainly have to look at that. I got an email. Hold on, I have to go pick it up off the floor for a second. Give me 1 second. It fell down on the floor. I got it.
Oh, good move.
Yeah, howdy, Josh and company. Is this the DP signing I'm supposed to get stoked for? I thought the idea was to get more mobility out of the new striker. This seems like a lateral approach, less of an upgrade. 25 goals over 79 appearances for St. Louis doesn't necessarily jump off the page. Query this. If Santa Claus is our starting number 9, then who's the third striker? That's always fun. Third striker right now is, my guess is Christian Ramirez, but that doesn't mean that that's the answer. So anyway, then who's our third striker? And would this pretend to be a short-term loan for Nascimento, which it ends up being? Maybe he gets sent back to Brazil in the summer. How would this line up in your eyes? Yeah, I mean, I think Klauss is the number 1 striker. They went out and spent quote-unquote DP money on him in order to acquire him and get him in. So I think that they think he plays the way that they want to play. Greg Vandy called him great with his feet. And again, I think the distribution part of his play is way underrated. This is a guy who absolutely can dish and move from that number 9 spot. So he'll drop back, he'll hold the ball up, he'll be able to turn and pass. And if you watch any of his highlights, he can certainly do that. He can also finish. He also struggles to finish sometimes. I'm sure there's going to be some frustrating moments. This guy is not he's going to knock every ball in that's hit right to him and it's 100%. He's not that guy, but he does have a nose for goal. He is extremely difficult to play against. And it's going to be, I think Galaxy fans will appreciate him for his hard work that he puts in and his ability to stay in the game and keep things going. So I think those are all positives for him.
John Nelson said the same thing. He said he's a hard worker, and he said Galaxy fans are going to love him. He looks about the same size and build as Dayon, I think. But I think he's much more mobile. I think Dayon was more sort of a poacher, and I think Klauss is a guy who's more mobile. And as you said, will get up and down the field, play some defense too.
Yeah, poacher, and I mean, I hate sort of like trying to derive these guys down to he's a poacher, he's a playmaker, he's this. I think that Klauss loves to find places to get open, and he can take shots. He hits a heavy ball. which is something you can watch in a lot of his shots. So he's deceptive in the way that he usually strikes the ball, and I think that those are all bonuses to what he sort of brings to the Galaxy. So we'll keep watching that as it goes on. But again, Joao Klauss in Nascimento in the LA Galaxy mostly have things lined up. There were rosters released or rosters that had to be put forward for CONCACAF Champions Cup. Klauss wasn't on there, but you can still have time to add him, so it's not a big deal. But for the most part, it's as advertised for the LA Galaxy. When you look at it, Kevin, and you get sort of if you want to put a starting lineup in there, there's going to be a lot of consistency. But as Will said, whenever asked why he thought there needed to be an investment in defense, the way that he sort of went out and did it, and it was simple: goals against. That was it. That's all the answer that you need to know, and he was correct. So I really think that it will really be interesting to it, and I think that there's going to be some interesting pairings that come out of Klauss as well. I think he can speak Portuguese for the Brazilians, and maybe he can speak Italian, and he can talk to Maya in Italian, or Maya in German, or Marco in German, right? Like I imagine that he probably is pretty fluent with all those, having played in Bundesliga and everything else. So I think it's going to be fun to sort of watch all this come about.
Then when it comes time for the media, he'll say, "I don't speak English."
No. He's good. I think he's going to be a good media guy. I had some reporters sort of reach out for St. Louis saying that he was a pretty good guy. He has some good quotes out there too. So he likes to be. He's like, "You can call me Klaus." Whenever he was talking to the team, so he was doing that today. He introduced himself. He went through the tunnel. He did all the things that you would sort of expect. But the good news is for the Galaxy is that he was already training with St. Louis. Now he's just training with the LA Galaxy. He'll probably play in the preseason match that comes up on the 31st. That's what I would expect. So he seems excited. Plus, Kevin, I'm not. I hate this because I'm sure there's St. Louis people who are going to listen to this, and I feel bad. But he gets to train under palm trees right now. Like, that's all you need to know. And I don't know if St. Louis is in Florida also training under palm trees, or maybe they're out in the desert training under palm trees. But it's not.
Aren't they going to be at CVI?
They are going to be at CVI. But I just don't know if they're there yet, right? That type of thing. But he gets to train under palm trees every single day he goes out to train with the LA Galaxy. That means something to these guys.
Well, who loves that?
Robbie
Keane. Who loves that?
Yeah,
the little white dog.
Oh yeah, his little Pomeranian.
The dog is just loving it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So by the way, yeah, does Klauss take over as translator? Ricky was asking. Does Klauss take over as translator for the Brazilians now? Are we good to go? So that way we can have those guys. So yeah, Juni is the usual Portuguese translator for all of the Brazilian players. But maybe Klauss steps in and does that too.
Well, there was a woman who her husband's one of the physios, and she did an interview with me with Peck.
That's right.
Translated it. Yeah.
Yep, I remember that. I think she came in and did something for us. Maybe it was a media availability. She did that as well. So that's something. I thought there's some interesting little MLS news. Let's start with the Walmart Saturday Showdown. Kevin, have you been? Did you read your press release for this?
I did not.
Man, boy, are you missing it.
Really goofy.
It seems super goofy. MLS is unveiling the Walmart Saturday Showdown, a new program for the 2026 season alongside presenting sponsor Walmart. Walmart Saturday Showdown will spotlight a marquee MLS matchup each Saturday through the regular season. If you go on there, one of the reasons it's sort of highlighted is the LA Galaxy versus Sporting Kansas City on March 14th will be one of the Walmart Saturday Showdowns. So when you hear that, you will, of course, know what it is. All right. It is what it is, right? At this point, we name everything, and everything has a sponsor and everything else that goes in. Another sort of controversial move, and I don't know if people have really been following this, but Polymarket is an official partner of Major League Soccer. The partnership reflects MLS and Sums is the commercial side of Major League Soccer commitment to innovating by bringing prediction-based insights into the fan experience, giving supporters new ways to anticipate outcomes, follow season-long storylines, and engage with MLS and League Cup through real-time collective fan sentiment. Real-time collective fan sentiment. This is going to just, I can't wait to see how all this plays
I
out.
just look in the air and see if there's a plane flying a banner. That's my fan sentiment.
Usually that's a pretty good indication
Yeah.
of what's going on. Let's see. As soccer audiences continue to grow and evolve in the U.S., fans are looking for new ways to engage more deeply with the game, said Shane Copland, founder and CEO of Polymarket. Through our partnership with MLS and Leagues Cup, we can surface real-time collective sentiment around key moments, matches, and season-long storylines, giving fans a more interactive, data-driven way to experience the game and engage with the world's most popular sport. Basically, all this comes down to me is, one is that they say that Polymarket is going to sort of work as a check on keeping the integrity of the game. So what they're talking about is whether or not Polymarket can predict or look at if there is cheating or if there is sort of something going on, game manipulation. That was one of the things they were sort of talking about for Polymarket. I figured this all comes down to gambling whenever you get to the bottom of it, and so I'm interested to see how it all plays out. The only interesting thing that really came out of this, the only reason I bring it up is because you're going to see it. And when you see it, I want you to sort of know where it came from. But I actually got an email from Walmart today being like, have you seen this press release? The whole day, and I'm like, Walmart is emailing me a press release. This is like, I feel every once in a while I feel like I'm an imposter and this shouldn't, like, this is just weird. That was one of those weird things. I got an email from Walmart. Walmart
I want to
PR.
see I want to see the campaign that Walmart does with MLS where they pay their employees a living wage. That's the campaign I want to see.
They can try that. I don't think it's gonna have a sexy name like the Walmart Saturday Showdown, but go for it.
No, Walmart : do the right thing.
There you go.
How about that?
We'll try that for a little bit. So certainly something to watch there, both on Polymarket and on your Saturday night matchups that now have a new name. That is what we have currently for the LA Gals. Do you have anything else that you got from training or anything today that you thought was interesting? I think we touched on most of it, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I talked before. No one else will care about this, but when we went out and did media at training, they generally stood us along a fence that was in the shade all the time, and so there was mud everywhere, and we just stand in the mud. The players would come over and stand in the mud. Some guys would come over in their stocking feet because they took their cleats off, and they'd stand in the mud. They hated it. So the Galaxy built a little deck up on the field, above the field. It's a little concrete deck. It's actually pretty cool. And it's looking kind of the skybox, looking down on the practice field, and it's a concrete thing, and they're going to do media there. And in the front, they have some bushes that looks really bad right now, but there's some bushes that have been, cut to make the LA and the Quasar sign, and they've got like a little statue thing out there with the Galaxy logo on it. It's actually pretty cool when those bushes grow in. It's going to look really cool, and you'll be able to see that when you go out to a game. It's obviously the first practice field right there when you come into the parking lot.
It'll be fun to sort of see how that all sort of plays out. The Galaxy getting ready, of course, heading to CVI in a little bit, so we are there. We are. I did get
in the stadium on Saturday.
Yeah. What did you see on Saturday?
Just it looks the same. Nothing's changed. That it was for the U.S. Women's National Team game. I just kind of got in, looked around Dignity Hill Sports Park. Everything's still there. Everything looks the same, but it's always good to check,
Well, they have a new video board, smart guy. So the new video board it looks the same, but it's supposed to be higher density quality in terms of the pixels. And then there's supposed to be Wi-Fi coming. I don't know if Wi-Fi will be available. Be one of the questions I'm sure we'll ask Tom Braun whenever he comes down.
To the people in the seats.
Yes, to the people. We've always had Wi-Fi. Yeah. Maybe our Wi-Fi will get better though.
The highlights on the video board did when they're showing game highlights, which is I think when you need that sort of extra power. Just the player pictures and stuff. You don't need it for that. But when they were showing the replays on the board, it did look a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Also on the Saturday showcase, by the way, so people are asking if it's replacing the Sunday. It says that this is a new sort of a new focus on new dedicated Saturday programming to feature the marquee. So I imagine if they wanted to do Sunday, they could still do some Sunday stuff, but I don't know if they're changing anything along that. There's also enhanced production and broadcast experience on Apple TV, so you'll get that as well. I'm trying to see, somebody else asked if it would be on Apple TV or how it is going. As part of the league's partnership with Apple, all MLS matches will be available on Apple TV starting in 2026. Enhanced production from the Galaxy, igniting fandom.
I think you have to go to Walmart for those Saturday games, the Walmart games. They have a big screen at the Walmart.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. See, that was something. Yeah, and we'll see. Anyway.
But by the way, did you see the story from The Economist? That The Economist did some sort of survey or poll and said now soccer is the third most popular sport in the U.S. tackle football, which is not to be confused with the NFL because they're lumping college football in. So American football is number one by a wide margin.
Right.
And number two is basketball, not the NBA, but that would include WNBA, college basketball, everything. Basketball is number two, and then soccer has now passed baseball.
Yeah, more
and
than
hockey behind that.
More than 10%, basically. Just so you know, when you're getting down into the numbers, more than 10% of respondents said that their soccer was their favorite sport.
Yeah, and tackle football and the NBA were up in the. I think football was right around 40, and the NBA is like 34. So it's a wide margin, but it did pass. And by the way, when they say soccer, that means you can say I only watch Premier League. You're a soccer fan. I only watch MLS. You're a soccer fan.
Yep.
So soccer does have that advantage of you can cheer for leagues in 211 countries, and you're still a soccer fan in the economist viewpoint. In the United States.
Right. Well, I mean, but it makes sense to sort of group that. It just shows where the market is sort of available. One is to peel people off of the NFL and NBA, and two is that soccer is past baseball, right? And I don't think a lot of people would sort of say. I said that in the office. People didn't believe me, so I was like, all right, that's fine. Well, it's just one survey too. I mean, I don't hold, whatever. It sounds good. Glad you asked. So anyway, that's where we are with the LA Galaxy. Again, there is a preseason game coming up on the 31st. That is against DC United, 11 a.m. Closed gate scrimmage. Kevin, I did it for you. Closed gate scrimmage. Once again, we'll see if we can once again get some information out of the LA Galaxy about who scored and all that fun stuff. So I was able to sort of find that stuff on X and Twitter whenever I was doing it. If you saw, I had some highlights. We'll see if we can do that again whenever it comes time for DC United. All right. Anything else? Are you good? Yeah, you're good. You're fine.
Arrivederci.
Yeah. I know. You're out of here. Travel safe. Enjoy the Olympics. I know you're working and you'll probably come home sick, but we will soldier on without you. When do you come back?
I get back on February 28th.
February 28th.
So I'm going the entire month of February.
You're gone the entire month of February. And like, is Milan cold this time of year? I imagine it's tell me.
It's very cold. It's in the very low 40s for the high, and then, but it's not like Canada where it gets down to 0 at night.
Okay.
It gets down, into the, maybe high 20s, low 30s. I did pull up a list of the best Mexican restaurants in Milan, so I would be checking that out.
That's what you need to do.
You know what they call Italian food in Milan?
Food?
Yeah, food.
Okay.
I just say I want Italian food. They go, the food.
You
just want food.
You just want food. Well, enjoy, be safe, and we'll, of course, catch you on the way back. All right. I think that does it for everybody. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter on any of the social media, watch him for all of his Olympics coverage, and off to Milan he goes. It's at KBaxter11. Head on over to LA Times for all of his coverage. Again, good luck. Have fun. We will see you soon.
Thank you.
As Kevin goes off to Milan. If you're looking for me on social media, at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com, and of course, anywhere you find your podcast, you can find Corner of the Galaxy. That includes SoundCloud or Spotify or Apple iTunes or Google Play or any of those places. Again, type in Corner of the Galaxy. You can find us. Come join us on February 8th for our live show from the Coachella Valley Invitational. That's when the LA Galaxy take on the Chicago Fire. Coming up again at 10 a.m. February 8th. Get your passes at CoachellaValleyInvitational.com. All right, that does it for Mr. Kevin, the Olympic Panda Baxter. I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on a special Tuesday. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.